All right, let's go ahead and get into our TNA reaction. We actually have some time today, so that's cool. I thought this show was an improvement over last week. Actually a big improvement over last week. Last week was such a nothing show. I was so disappointed that they did not capitalize on the momentum that they had coming out of Slammiversary last week. And this week, one thing I do want to talk about, yes, the show was better. I thought it was far more entertaining than the previous week. But I don't know if it's just the venue, but am I crazy to say that the production for this episode was crap? Like the video production, they were using that ugly yellow filter again. And I don't know why they do it. People just want a clear screen. But for some reason, this crew likes that yellow filter that has like a yellow tint to it. When in reality, just a clear, bright screen looks better, right? If you compare what it looked like, what this show looked like to say Collision from last week, like Collision is crisp and clear, but TNA has like this yellow filter over it and like it's darker. It just looks weird. It looks gross. It does not look professional. And the audio was still a little bit off with the entrances, and that might just be the venue there, because some of these venues don't have good Wi-Fi. And so if you guys notice on this show, like my Wi-Fi can be really good at times, but if I have too much stuff going on my computer, I get real blurry. And there were times during the show where they would cut to certain cameras and the camera was just blurry. And then they would cut to another camera and it was clear and crisp. It was just weird. So I don't know, but the Verdun Auditorium is a very old venue. It's like from the 1920s. So maybe it's just a Wi-Fi issue. Like they just cannot handle what they were doing with the live stream. Because it's not live streaming to Access TV, but they're live streaming it to the computer, right? So, it did not look good. Like the show, the production quality took a real hit during the Slammiversary set of tapings, despite the fact that it was one of the more historic weekends they've ever had. The production quality looked like crap. But we opened the show hot. We got the Rascals, Wesley, Zach Wentz, Trey Miguel defeating Speedball Mountain and Kushida. And I thought this was a hell of a way to kick off the show. Great match. Just tons of action. There's no way I can really capture it all. But let's go to the end here. Back in the ring, Lee hits a flip into a big kick for a 2 count, 7 tags in, climbs to the top, but Lee runs over and hits a kick that stuns him. He climbs up after him, but 7 counters and hits a super scoop slam off the ropes for a 2 count of his own. Lee walks into a super kick from Bailey and then hit a 7-star lariat from 7. And then they go for ultimate weapon on Lee, but Wentz runs over to make the save before they can execute it. Lee hits a running back elbow to 7 in the corner and then tags in Miguel. They hit a triple team spot, and then Miguel hits the diving splash on a Kushida and Bailey on the floor. Lee and Wentz hit their double team high flyer. Hot fire flame on 7 in the ring for a pinfall victory. Very good, very fun opening match. It was really cool to see the Rascals again. Good stuff. I really dig it. Real fun way to open the show. And then next, we go to a video segment featuring TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace. She goes on to issue another open challenge for her title. I really wish they would not have done this because I know who answers the challenge, and it's not worthy of being a surprise. So, and it's not anybody from NXT. It's just somebody from the roster. Now, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to do spoilers, but it's very underwhelming. And it's not like anybody's going to be, oh my God, look who answered the challenge for Jordynne. Because at least when it was NXT stars, even though you didn't really know them, it was unique that it was somebody from NXT. And so the way that they did it, now they have set that precedent, right? Now that they've set that expectation, they've created that. So when they do it, it just turns out it's just a mid-carder from your roster. Then you're just like, oh, okay, who gives a shit? And that's what happens. So that's unfortunate. But that, you really got to temper your expectations when TNA is teasing something that's a bit surprising, because you know for a fact that if they can't find anything good, they're going to keep up with the gimmick, and then they'll just trot out Tommy Dreamer or, Rhino. Like Tommy Dreamer and Rhino have held the record for most surprise appearances in TNA. And then on the women's side, it's kind of something similar. But yeah. Next, show returns from a break, and there's a backstage interview segment. Standing by is Campaign Singh in the campaign. We were told that this was supposed to be an interview with Mustafa Ali, but about his TNA World Championship shot in the main event this evening against Nic Nemeth. Singh is on the phone with Ali, who appears upset. Singh frantically talks about how he will prove his loyalty to the campaign and his credibility tonight. After he hangs up, he appears nervous about how he's supposed to do that. And then we got Rosemary defeats a local talent called Kristara. Never heard of this person. I'm sure she's great. But Rosemary came in and just kicked her ass. And then afterwards, just put a black rose on her with some creepy music and lighting and all that stuff. And Rosemary's got a cool new look. She's short blonde hair, and she's got new entrance music, so she's gone away from the Decay entrance music. Havoc has not been around in a while, so I don't think she's working here anymore. I don't know what her deal is. I know that her and Rosemary were recently in AAA, but she has not been on TNA television in a long time. They're doing something with Rosemary as a single act. She kneels over her fallen opponent, pulls out a black rose out of a bag. She lays it on her chest and crosses her arms over it. Ash by Elegance was shown watching on a monitor backstage during and after the match. All right, then we go to the System in a backstage interview segment. The group are still wearing the same red, white, and blue gear that they wore last week on the show. I dig it, and not really a crazy spoiler, but that those outfits have continued on with them in Tampa. So maybe they're going to start selling them. I'll wear a red, white, and blue System shirt or jacket. That'd be cool. Maybe they'll send one to me for free. They should. Each member takes a turn speaking into the camera about how the group may have been dealt a blow or two in recent weeks, but they are still the most dominant force in all of professional wrestling. They'll show you why you must trust the System. There you go. And then backstage, we see Mike Santana sitting on a stairwell talking about how in recent weeks he have proven that there are some cracks in the system. As he continues talking, he is cut off by Campaign Singh, who nervously challenges him to a match. And Santana says go talk to Santino and get it done. And then, man, a lot of talking segments in a row. Go back inside the Impact Zone. The walking weapon is introduced, and he doesn't come out. He's introduced again, and he doesn't come out. And the commentators inform us that Gia Miller's with him backstage. And a fired up Alexander talks to Miller about how he doesn't care where he is supposed to be right now. He says he'll talk right here. He rants briefly about fans believing in Joe Hendry, but how is it he who has carried TNA on his back for years, and he gets annoyed and walks off without saying much once again. And then we get to Frankie, the future Kazarian, with Ryan Nemeth. And I got, Ryan, like, it must be awesome to have a big brother like Nic Nemeth. Because Ryan Nemeth just doesn't have it, man. He just, like, the poor guy, like, his brother is so good and he is not. Like, it's not like he's like completely terrible. Like he can do the moves, right? But it's like the in-between stuff. It just, you could tell, like, he's just not very good at it. So I think he would be better served as like somebody's manager, like just on the outside wearing his Hollywood hunk jacket and interfering in matches and getting his ass kicked. I think that's like the role for him. So I don't want to sit here and say that the guy can't contribute. I think he can, but in the ring is just not for him. Like 30 years ago on WCW Saturday Night from Center Stage, like he would have just been standing in the ring. His name would have been Bobby Salsa, like that meme that goes around, and he would have just been like looking at the lights within 2 minutes. Like, but he's got a pretty famous older brother who is the world champion in this company, so he's getting some minutes on the undercard, and which is finally, nepotism doesn't bother me one bit, but I think there are better guys that you could have on your roster. But Nemeth hits a gut-wrench suplex for a 2 count as things slow back down. Nemeth heads to the top rope and leaps off with a crossbody splash for another close pin attempt. After kicking out, Kazarian starts to fight back. He hoists Nemeth up for a fade to black, but Nemeth escapes out the back door. Kazarian slingshots Nemeth from the ring apron outside of the ring ropes, over the ring ropes, into a perfectly timed cutter. He immediately follows up with a pinfall victory. The guy here says this was a good match. Yeah, the match wasn't bad. Frankie Kazarian's very good, obviously. But I was just watching Nemeth, and I was like, man, he's not very good. And then after the match is over, Josh Alexander emerges, walks right past the King of TNA, heads into the ring, picks up Nemeth, and hits him with the C4 spike, and leaves him laying. And then as he's leaving, the Montreal crowd once again sings the Na 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 song, and Josh looks pissed. So they're setting up for a Josh Alexander. I'm curious because I know they wrestle in Tampa, and I'm not gonna get into spoilers. So I know that they've advertised it on social media. So this is not me breaking news here. It's like people know that that was booked for Tampa. I'm curious to see where that goes because you got Emergence coming up in Louisville, but that's another bar with like 200 to 400 people, right? And it looks like they're doing very well, but again, like, the denominator is very small. I don't know that you do like a main event TNA Plus match between Nic Nemeth and Josh Alexander in front of a couple hundred people. I think that's a match that should be saved for, 1,500 people in San Antonio at the Boeing Center. I think that's the place to do it. And then for my money, that's the place to do it. And I think Josh goes over, and then you head into the UK for Bound for Glory with Josh versus Joe Hendry, if that's the direction. But Josh right now currently is feuding with both Joe Hendry and Nic Nemeth. Now, I think it's also possible, and I think something came out earlier in the week that Josh and Joe Hendry are not going to be feuding over the world title, and that they're just going to be like on a side feud. And that Hendry might not be going for the title. So who knows, man? I have no idea how this whole thing's going to play out. So next we got Jody Threat taking on Masha Slamovich. So this feud's still going. Can we get some knockouts tag teams in here so we don't have to keep seeing the same team just feuding for 18 months? It's getting ridiculous. And I think they got matches scheduled for Tampa too. Anyway, Jody Threat won. I was like, the match was okay. I'm kind of done with the feud. Like we're just gonna keep doing singles matches against them, and then like they're gonna get another tag team match just because we don't have any other tag teams. What a pathetic division this is. It's pathetic. Get some more tag teams, you losers. All right. Tom Hannafin and Matthew Raywalt talk about Joe Hendry being the hottest rising star in pro wrestling business. And we head to a video package with new comments from Hendry. Talks about the fans believing in him and how he needs them to continue to support him as he continues to ascend the ladder in the business. Talks about obstacles, and then they cut to his concert from NXT, and then he was attacked by Gallus, and it looks like he's facing Joe Coffey coming up on Great American Bash Part 2. Coming up on Tuesday. So there you go. And then we get Mike Santana versus Campaign Singh. He just beat this dude's ass. Spin the block for the easy pinfall victory. Once the match wraps up, Santana talks about what happened at TNA Slammiversary, sends a message to Moose before vowing before God, his girl, and his baby that he will become the TNA World Champion. He says he needs Moose to understand something and tells him to look into the camera. He promises Moose that he's going to hurt him and makes it clear that a hit has been put out on him as of this moment. So I think Santana's going to murder him because that's what a hit means to me. And then we go to, the main event match, the main event match of the evening, which was a very good match between Nic Nemeth and Mustafa Ali. It's how they're writing, and then, Ali's last match in the company. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a very good match. During the match, though, it's where I could really see the production issues kind of rearing, like with some of the video quality stuff, especially with the different camera cuts. they cut to one camera, it has a different type of look. You know, the same color, but it's like some of them were more blurry than others. But I really thought this was an excellent match. So tonight was very much improved over last week's show. So let's go. Ali sends Nemeth starting first into the turnbuckles with rib cracking ferocity. This guy, I think this guy might be using Chat GPT to write his things, because like nobody really talks like that. Nemeth returns. This is from the Wrestling Observer, like the recapper guy. Nemeth returns a favor, plus as he does the same to Ali, but sending the former X Division champion face first into the middle turnbuckle with even more momentum. Ali grabs Nemeth and hits a modified electric chair slam on the unforgiving floor at ringside. We see officials checking on Nemeth as Ali gets back up and celebrates his work, gloating to the crowd as they loudly boo. Then we get a mid-match commercial break, and then when things return, we see Ali closer and closer to stealing the win and potentially the title with cheap heel tactics. Ultimately, Nemeth picks up the victory with the Danger Zone to retain. And then if the show went off the air there, I think we're ending on a high note. But we went off the air with the PCO and Steph Lander wedding. The PCO Steph Lander wedding was corny, it was cheesy, the acting was terrible. It was very pro wrestling. So I laughed several times. But I felt like the set that they had was just very cheap. It seemed like they just didn't put any effort into it. Like TNA weddings of the past, they actually would have like a full setup in the ring for a wedding. And this one just had like a cheap little backdrop. So I was disappointed in that. And then they were trying to be cute with having Rhino in his wrestling gear wearing a tie, but I've seen better. Like they've actually put a ton of effort into these weddings before, where they actually had like more than one groomsman, right? So they just had Rhino and he was just in his wrestling gear and a tie, but they would have groomsmen in suits and all that stuff. They really should have done a better job. I just thought that this was slapped together at the last minute, just poorly done, poorly produced. That doesn't mean I wasn't entertained. I was, but as far as TNA weddings go, like I don't think this should even be in the conversation with some of the best. It just shouldn't. I did think it was funny that when PCO went to give Steph DeLander her ring, that it was still on his grandma's finger. That cracked me up. I mean, it's so stupid. But anyway, they're about to kiss the bride. Lights go out. Actually, before that, they're about to do that, and then AJ Francis and Rich Swann come out, and they just said no, they just want to be a part of it. That was weird. I didn't think that they needed to be there because they ended up getting to the heat later, which they're about to kiss the bride. Lights go out, and it's Matt Cardona, and he comes out and he attacks PCO. And AJ Francis and Rich Swann help out with the attack, and they attack Rhino and all that. So they beat everybody down, and then he takes the titles, and he's leaving, and Steph DeLander's like pissed at him. And so I thought the angle was good. I thought the angle was good, but I don't know. I would not end the show with this. I thought the way to end the show was with the World Heavyweight Championship. But he tears down the wedding set as fans boo, and as sad-looking DeLander watches on, Cardona stops from leaving the ring. He heads back and snatches DeLander by the hand, tries yanking her forcefully out of the ring with him, but she freaks out and yells off mic about it being her day. Questioning why he's doing this to her, he backs off in the corner as she continues to freak out on him. Cardona exits the ring and yells back off mic, "What are you doing? You're with me. It's not supposed to be this way." And then we see DeLander crying in the ring as PCO slowly gets back to his feet. And that's how the show ends. Right there. And then so next week we have Kushida versus Gresham. Joe Hendry's in action. Ultimate X qualifiers begin, and then Jordynne Grace's underwhelming Knockouts Open Title challenge. And that is the TNA Impact reaction. I was not impressed with that wedding, to say the least. Let's go ahead and get to some more of the chats here, and then we're going to close the show out. Io says, "I love this new Unpredictable Josh." Yeah, it's good. And Gail Kemp mentioned the tag divisions, and by the end of the year, both tag and singles divisions should be strengthened. Well, we didn't get that last night in Tampa. I can tell you that. There's nothing. lead in that direction. So I don't trust Gail Kim at this point. It's all lip service until I actually see it happening. Because she's been saying we're going to beef up the Knockouts division for a long time, and we just never see it. Billy says, interesting how Hannafin was putting over Bloodsport so much. Didn't he know Masha was GCW and her and Speedball wrestled there on the regular? Yeah, it was a little bit like they were actually showing Bloodsport highlights on TNA this week. Kind of interesting. Let's see. And then love how hard both Nemeth and Ali work in TNA. Now the guy is just resting on their WWE credentials. Great match. And then yes, this wedding was not the level of Braxton Sutter and the Ali wedding. So I think all wrestling weddings are always going to be compared to that one because that one was the greatest ever. No matter what company, that one was the best ever. Nothing else has come close. TNA has tried to do some that have come close. You know, the one where they did the Brian Cage and Melissa Santos, which again, I did not think was very well produced, but that the end of it was Sami Callihan knocking out Melissa Santos by accident, leading into the Bound for Glory match, right? And then of course they had the infamous, I think it was Rosemary and who was she marrying? It was Rosemary and Johnny Bravo. And then Johnny Bravo got shot. And none of them can compare to the Braxton Sutter Ali wedding, which was, like, for my money, the greatest one ever. And nobody, I don't think anybody's ever going to touch this. And they didn't even try. And you should try. I thought that they, with the characters that they had in the ring, with the two characters involved, both playing their roles very well, I really felt like they should have went big production on it. And I don't think they needed to do it right away. There was no reason. I know they wanted to get it done in Montreal. I don't think there was any reason why they had to. And in fact, they closed the show out in Montreal with a casket match between PCO and Moose that was just for the live crowd. They could have done something like that for the episode. Instead of doing the wedding, you could have built the wedding over time and then actually spent money on the production for it, the decorations and get everybody in suits and you have more than one bridesmaid, more than one groomsman. And they just kind of threw it together at the last minute and decided that they wanted to do it. And I'm just like, that's a half-ass way to do things. You got to be better than that. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for me this time on Brace for Impact. Thanks to everybody checking us out. I greatly appreciate you being Patreon subscribers. Tell your friends to join us. I will greatly appreciate it. And that's all for this week, folks. And until next time, mahalo.